3. The spouse who goes to sleep first on the wedding day will be the first to die. Nearly all of our customers were females. As I said, we'd get the old young man on the matter of romance. One fellow, Bobby Mike Pike, who begged Mama to help him bet on the horses. But when Mr. Polo arrived in the middle of September, along with golden light in the late afternoons, we knew the season was changing in more ways than one. Mama had not insisted on a telephone when inquired about rooms. We'd not lived with one before. The fact that most people use party lines in these little towns made Mama more uneasy about sharing the service, never knowing who might be listening in. But here it was, already installed and now burp, burp, crying for attention in the hallway. Women, their first visit, often tapped on the door on an impulse, courage up. Man tended to arrange things ahead of time. Mr. Poole, a businessman, called us on the telephone to reserve an appointment for 2 days later. Mama reported the conversation in full. He is acquaintances with that Mr. Foster, who conveniently discovered she was pregnant directly after I said there was a baby in her future. Mama told me. He asked what remuneration will you acquire, instead of how much does it cost. I think you should visit his house this evening, Annie. It was best to view the homes of our swanky patrons after dark, when I would not be disturbing anyone inside. Mama liked to hear architectural details. Mr. Poole lived halfway up the hill in a house with a patio and a lily pond, all wrapped around with a wrought iron fence. I didn't often climb fence, although I preferred to peek through windows in up-close positions. A fence could mean a vicious dog. I chose to roll by as the night grew darker. Columns flanked of mansion front door. There were marble steps and panes of stained glass set into the upstairs dormer kitchen. All of these fine touches ensured that Mama would be the most solicitous of poor, bereaving Mr. Poole, waiting for Peg to make supper. Mama and I reread the few notes that I had about the Pooles. Mr. Poole had died a year. Mrs. Poole had died a year before from an alignment that had her looking like a skeleton long before she passed. I knew this the same way I know everything from listening. She seemed to have been a quite sourpuss who spat out insults as rapidly as an auctioneer. The ladies at the market did not get hushed or teary when her name came up. He never would have married her if she hadn't been so rich, was the general sentiment. One knobby-nosed woman had even suggested that Mr. Poole could be forgiven if he hurried his wife's death along and with a judicious use of artisans. But there but here the other ladies would not venture. Mr. Poole's Mr. Poole favorite coconut hair oil. Favors coconut hair oil. Mrs. Poole, elbows sharp as carpet needles, tongue sharper still. Mostly there was talk of how her father must be spinning under his fancy pink Grante tombstone, knowing that his estate and the inheritance from the lovely Lakestock factory ended up in the hands of his son-in-law. So much money they used $5 bills for kindling. This was a big fish, Annie, said Mom. This demands our particular consideration. Do we do something different? Notice details, she said, as if that weren't already my specialty. Mr. Poole arrived on a Wednesday afternoon, nearly in disguise. Peg reported later that he wore an overcoat with the collar turned up and a hat with the brim tipped down. He knocked twice and then knocked again for 4 seconds. Later, before Peg even had her apron off, Mama thought I was reading in my room, but I was already settled behind the red chair. Thanks to my ingredient and small frame, I knew from the start how things really stood with Mr. Poole. Mr. Poole began to speak without sitting down, as if Mama were an angel descending from heaven and would disappear before he got his words off his chest. He was certain his dead wife had returned to haunt him. She didn't like the new crockery he had chosen, and she broke 4 teacups, jumping them out of his hand to the floor. She didn't approve of his introducing new fish into the pond, so she left 2 of them gasping on the bank. Mr. Poole wanted Mama to contact his dead wife and tell her to stop. You remind her that I'm alive and she's not, she said. I've been drinking out of teacups covered in Primazole for 22 years, and it's time to change. He was pretty ruffled. Mama tucked him into the big chair I was squeezed behind, and said she could see how reaching Mrs. Poole was of the utmost importance. She leaned in so close to him that I dared not to breathe. She had decided to enchant while my legs got cramps, pressing up so tightly against my chest. Normally, Mr. Poole, I would have a calling here in this room to send word to your late wife, but this sounds like an extreme situation. Her voice was tender, urgent, making me squirm. I believe I will be the most effective if I come to your home. My goodness, I thought. His watch chain must be solid gold, or he was flashing emerald cuffs linked and alligator shoes. It was too risky to peek. The spirits are often caught off guard when approached on their own territory, Mama told him. I can likely reach her without too much difficulty. I see, Mr. Poole said, sounding nervous. I expect your wife will insist on a little coating to move along quietly, said Mama, making it seem like Making it seem, said Mama, making it seem she took his pitifully seriously. It might not happen all in one night, we're almost, but we're almost likely to succeed by using elements from her early earthly home. Some jewelry, perhaps, and a cup of dirt from your garden. Oh, and we'll need a small advantage to pay for other particular item materials. I'll bring my daughter as an assistant. You have a daughter? He sounded surprised. Also disappointed, perhaps. You may have seen her around, said Mamma. She's an unusual child, and sadly touched in the head. It has been a struggle being a lone widow, taking care for a needy child, but I have discovered that her inhabitants of the other side are particular recipients when she is with me. How would Friday night suit you? Friday would be just fine with Mr. Poole, and out came his brown blind billfold. Mamma named the price that would have choked a regular Fortin secret patron, but the rustle of the paper money told me that he offered no complaint. Mamma continued to murmur into the hall, where she wrapped him in his overcoat and found where his hat had slipped off its hook to the floor. "That's her again!" cried Mr. Poole. "She's followed me here." "Oh, no, I don't think so, Sus, Mamma. There aren't many spirits who dare to come here uninvited." She chuckled and opened the front door. Mr. Poole hovered on the steps, not hurrying his goodbye. I slipped to the window to examine his gent. He wore a wide-brimmed fedora like a gangster, and pinstriped blouse and pinstriped trousers. He patted Mamma's arm more than once. He was that grateful. Finally, with a jaunty stride, he went off down Needle Street. I lingered in the hallway as Mamma came back in humming. "Was that the gentleman who telephoned yesterday?" I still felt warm from listening to her flirtations. Mamma pulled me into the front room and closed the door against the chance of Peg's ear catching my normal voice. "Oh, yes," she said. "He was most certainly a gentleman." I didn't like the way she said that. "What do you mean? He's rich, he's well-spoken, and his breath doesn't stink. He really believes that his dreadful wife is hovering like an innocent in a Catholic church. We're going to scare her away. We're going to scare her spirit away," said Mama. "It would be quite an effort to take several tries. It would require an investment on his part, but he will be very grateful at the end." "How are we going to do that?" "We start this week and take it step by step. On Friday evening, we'll go to his home and pretend and perform a spirit banishment. But, 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 we're all set up here." "You'll have your toast, won't you? We can use the bell and perform some hooey with earth from the garden. We won't do a full-fledged calling, just a quick contact. Miss Poole will speak just long enough to leave her husband craving for more. I'll have him eating out of his hands before you can say harling, hooting. Oh, Mama just have felt brimful of confidence. Only so she would mention that great escape artist to her mind. Harley Houdini was the devil. Houdini's mother had died a few years earlier, and he tried to summon her spirit using several different trance mediums, but he kept being tricked by the fakes and had lost all his faith that spirits would that the spirit world existed. He since devoured his life into exposing frauds. Mama had nightmares about her journey appearing on her doorstep. That was why we avoided publicity and struck to nowhere, New York. She grinned at me, a rare and lovely sight. It would be fun, Annie. A challenge. It's good for us to shake things up once in a while. It keeps our wits lively. She looked down and realized that she was rolling. Mr. She was rolling Mr. Pooler's paper money between her thumbs and forefinger. This is only the beginning, she said. I have plans for Mr. Gregory Sebastian Poole.